This is Edna White, and you are on Keeping It Real on Purpose. I am your host, your life purpose coach, and author. This podcast is for the all around woman where we challenge your everyday thinking and limiting beliefs around life, relationships, and your business to help you live your life purposefully. Today on our show, we're excited to have our guest, Mayim Vega, who is I'm going to mess it up, audience. You hear me now. Are you ready, right? Naturopathic herbalist.
Right.
I got it. And her business is called the Holistic Life Academy. And you can find her at Arukah, ARUKAH.com. Welcome to Keeping It Real. How are you, Mayim?
Thank you, Edna. Thank you so much. I'm doing great, and I'm happy to be here and have a chat with you right now.
Oh, that's terrific. So, of course, I almost botched your profession, but I want you to share it with me because it sounds so very interesting, and I think it's something that our audience might get some good information about. So, share with us what naturopathic herbalist is.
Yeah, so when I first went to study holistic health and healing, I studied nutrition and herbalism. So, I mainly used the title herbalist.
Right.
But then I kept on learning and I kept on studying. And, the new things that I learned didn't fall under herbalism.
Right.
And actually herbalism is just a part of what is known more today as naturopathy.
Okay.
You could also say holistic health, but a more, I guess, professional term or whatever is naturopathy. So that's why I have that term, naturopathic herbalist.
I got you.
And herbalists are the ancient healers, right? In hundreds and maybe even thousands of years ago, there were no doctors. It's a fairly new title, a fairly new term. There were no hospitals. There were no pharmaceutical drugs.
Of course. Yeah.
It was the medicine man or the witch doctor or the faith healer. Right. But he used herbs, or she would use herbs.
Right.
Mostly they would use other things too, of course. But instead of drugs, it would be herbs. And there's also diet and resting and fasting and all that. But there's a lot of things that would fall under holistic health and healing or naturopathy today that were not used by the herbalists of old. For example, megadose vitamin therapy or orthomolecular nutrition. It is considered part of holistic health and healing because it's not actually like a patented pharmaceutical drug. Vitamins are not patented. Anyone can actually make a vitamin. Anyone can make vitamin C. You can make it at home.
What?
If you have the right, it's just there's different types, and you have to have some special
equipment.
Equipment. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not something that you need an expensive laboratory to make. Now, some of the vitamins are a little bit harder to make. But basically, it's not patented.
Okay.
And they are, even if you can make natural vitamins, and there's also man-made vitamins. But whether they're man-made or natural, they're still familiar to your body, and your body can use them. Whereas oftentimes pharmaceutical drugs, they are so synthetic and actually harmful to your body. That even if they accomplish, curing the symptom, it can cause other problems with your body.
Oh.
But when it comes to vitamins and herbs, it doesn't do that. Actually, the side effects, what I've seen and what my students have seen is that the side effect of, taking a certain herb or vitamin is that you're healed not only of the thing that you originally took it for, but you're healed of other things as well. So it's almost a complete opposite. And both vitamins and herbs have that effect. And there's also like homeopathy and things called like German New Medicine and
right.
Different things that weren't necessarily around several hundred years ago or thousands of years ago, but they still fall under the umbrella of holistic health and healing or naturopathy.
Gotcha. Now, you said, and I like that part, that you said that when you go holistic, not only does the herbs heal the original reason why you were taking them, but they do other things. Can you give us an example of that?
Yes, I have lots of examples of that. I have my own story, but I want to tell the story of one of my students, actually.
Okay, great. Yes, I love this.
She gave me the permission to use her story.
Okay, great.
Her name's Bernadette. Now, I might get some of the details wrong, but I'm going to tell you her story as best as I can, as best as I can remember. Hopefully I can remember the details. Okay. Anyways, so she came to study at Aruka.com. She said that she had wanted to become, at one point in time, a nutritionist or a registered dietitian.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure why she didn't do that instead. It could be because the regular dietitian route is like a full 4 years, and you have to usually go into the facility, and it's long. It's lengthy.
Yes. Right.
But she had also been, I guess, following me, on YouTube and social media and whatnot, and so she was intrigued by what I did. And it's funny. I have a student who's a medical doctor, but she also learns from me, and I also counsel with her because her knowledge is also valuable. And I was telling her about this, and she was like, well, it's good that she decided to learn with you instead,
right?
Because the things she would be learning at a regular college would be the same things. The people who form our school lunch menus or the hospital menus are registered dietitians, and they're not really trained to think outside the box, right? Or they're not really they're there to study what's established and what's accepted,
right?
And that's not necessarily what's the best or the healthiest. Actually, they're usually very I would say they're low standards. So the standards, the things that one would learn at our school at Aruka.com are advanced. They are they're not normal, but they're more radical, but they're also very healing. They're very, very powerful. Anyway, so she came to learn, but I think one of her motivations also to learn with Aruka is her husband. Her husband had been suffering with colitis. I asked her for how long. She said about 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Ever since he was discharged from the military. And so she said that he had been on lots of different types of medications. He'd take one for a while, and it may or may not help him, but at some point it would cause other side effects, which they'd have to have new drugs for it and blah blah blah, or it would just sometimes it just wouldn't be acceptable anymore. Side effects were so bad that I completely switched the medications. And so I asked her, well, what medications is he on right now? And we looked it up. I forgot what the names of them were. We looked it up together. And the funny thing is that some of the side effects of the medication that he was taking, that her husband was taking, actually could cause the very problem. So one of the symptoms of colitis is diarrhea. And one of the side effects of the medication that he was taking was that it might produce diarrhea.
Wow.
I mean, that's the craziness of the pharmaceutical industry. So I was like, okay.
Sure, okay.
I was like, yes, I can definitely, help you help your husband and teach you what you need to know to basically nurse him back to health.
Okay.
So she became my student, and I made a custom module for her that specifically educated her on the topic of basically colon health, irritable bowel syndrome, colitis, Crohn's disease, constipation, just colon health in general. And she started reading, and she started learning all these things, and she started, cutting out carbs and going organic and taking lots of probiotics and doing raw homemade kefir. Different. She became healthier than me, basically. And she was able to reduce her husband's medication. Now, I didn't tell her to do that. I can never tell my students, to get off medication or reduce your medication. I actually referred her to a holistic practitioner near her to help her with that. But it's also everyone's constitutional right to do that, to get off the medication themselves. So I'm not sure what path she took, whether she went to the doctor that I referred her to or not, but she was able to substitute the medications that she was giving, that her husband was taking, with a healthy diet instead. And the interesting is, now finally answering your question, is she reported several things that her husband was suffering with. One of them, the main one, was the colitis.
Okay.
But there were the other problems were restless legs. She said that her husband has restless legs. They're just always moving all the time. And he was taking medication for that. And also insomnia. And of course, different medication you can take for that. But the interesting thing is that when she nursed her husband to health through healing his gut, basically, it's all about gut health.
Yeah.
When she helped her husband do that, these other problems just went away on their own. We didn't even have to address them at all. Healing his gut, healed him of insomnia and restless legs. And then she had different problems. She had the opposite. She had constipation, chronic constipation. And she learned some herbal formulas and things like that for that. And so all still gut and colon related, all the same custom learning module that I made for her. So that's an example of, you do one thing, but it helps you with so many things that you didn't even imagine.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot. When you were talking about, you referred to your client, what I would call my client, you referred to them as students.
I do. I like that term better. I think it's more accurate because client, usually it's for me, it's like you tell them what to do and they do it blindly.
Right.
Kind of. They just trust you.
Okay.
But I don't think that's effective when it comes to holistic health and healing.
Gotcha.
There's a quote. Let me read this quote.
Sure.
I really like this quote. I don't want to botch it up, so I'm gonna it's on my website. It's at the bottom. Let me see. What does it say? I'm gonna read it. There's two of them. Well, let me read the one by Hippocrates.
Okay.
Hippocrates, he was known as the father of medicine, and he said that the greatest medicine of all is teaching people how not to need it. Everyone has a doctor in him or her, and we just have to help it in its work. So for me, it's like she needs to be well educated, not just take my word for it. Just take my word from it, it would be too much. It would be too much. Too much for me to tell her. You can't educate someone in 1 hour. You have to give them, in my experience, the best way to bring true health and healing, especially for a chronic condition like that someone's been suffering with for 20 years. She was able to help him in 2 months. And she didn't do that because I told her, take this one herb, which is usually what happens when you go to a medical doctor, right?
Right.
This problem, and they're like, okay, take this.
Right. Yeah, he does.
There's no education.
Right.
That's not how I don't believe in that method. Okay. I had to empower her and encourage her and be there for her to support her, answer her questions, give her resources, links, tools, stuff like that. So she was the healer. She was the healer for herself and for her husband. And that's actually our tagline for our school that we've used. Become the healer of your home and your community and build a profitable online health coaching business. But it starts with you, and it starts with the home. Like, you can't. Funny statistic is that medical doctors statistically aren't very healthy. They don't have a longer lifespan. A lot of them they'll smoke and they'll have really bad habits. so they're not being a true doctor. You know, that word doctor,
Right,
it
right.
comes from, I think it's a Latin word that means doctrine, which means a teaching or a teacher, you
Oh,
know?
that's
And
really
so, but
serious.
you know, and that's why, you know, when you go to college and you reach the highest level, you have a PhD, then you're called doctor, right? Even if
Mm-hmm.
it's not a medicine, it's doctor of science, doctor of mathematics, whatever.
Ah, I
Doctor
see.
means doctor means that you've reached such a high level in your education that you are a very qualified master teacher. But the
Right.
problem is that medical doctors today, they don't fulfill that name, that title anymore. Now, there are some good holistic medical doctors. I think they're very few and far between, but they don't learn that in medical school. In medical school, typically you know they learn a diagnosis of diseases, but they learn pharmaceuticals, they learn drugs, which don't
Okay.
bring true healing. They mask symptoms. They're
Right.
good, necessary for emergency purposes. I'm not saying that drugs are bad all the time, but they're not. They don't bring true healing. They bring temporary, very necessary relief and aid.
Mm-hmm.
But for true holistic health and healing, it needs to be a complete change in thought and in lifestyle.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. You got me wanting to call my clients students. That's very good. I like that. I like the, I love educating, folks, whoever I'm speaking with. I love to educate them on whatever we're talking about. And that's really a good outlook. That's very good I like what you're saying. I like that. Now tell us, so tell us that now that you're showing up in the world like this, right? What made you start showing up like that? What made you start to do your business this way, or just to start this business?
Mm, this specific business, I think it was
Yes.
because of, I'd say because of the pandemic when, you know, what was it, 2 years ago
Mm-hmm.
or so, as when you know, we started creating the health coach certification program. Before, I was just counseling people, coaching people on a one-on-one,
Right. Right.
you know, sort of basis, not teaching. But you know,
Mm-hmm.
I started. I would always get people who would ask me to teach,
Mm-hmm.
not just advise, but to teach. And I was
Right.
like, I would always push it off. But you know, when the pandemic happened, I just realized that people need this. You know, people want this.
Mm-hmm.
And I you know, there were some two medical doctors who, you know, that I help sometimes. They encouraged me to do it. So I was like, okay, well, it's always been kind of in the back of my mind, but I think this is the right time to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, the pandemic has taught us a lot of things.
Changed a lot of things. Yeah, it's
Yes, it
changed the
did.
world.
It did. Now, what is a common myth about your profession that you want to debunk or share with the audience that isn't really real?
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, I have three. They're all basically the same, kind
Mm-hmm.
of. They're very much related. Number one is the myth that in order to be a holistic healer, you need to be licensed. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not licensed.
Right.
The second myth is that it takes many years. Now, it does take, the more years, the better. That's for
Right.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think most.
Okay, we might have lost Mayim. I don't hear you.
Studying the right material and you're studying it hard and you're studying it vigorously, it doesn't have to take 10 years
Okay.
to start.
Mayim, I'm sorry, I lost you for a moment. Can you go back and say that part again? you
Oh,
know,
which part? Which part?
just start from the beginning because I didn't hear you. I lost you for a moment.
Okay. So there are basically three myths and they're all kind of related.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One of them, or the first one, is that you need to be licensed to be a holistic healer. And that's not true. I'm not licensed in anything. And there are a lot of health coaches that are not licensed and they're very effective healers. Now, of
Right.
course, it doesn't mean that it's bad to have a medical license, but it's not necessary. And that comes to the second myth, which is that it takes many years to become a holistic healer. Mm-hmm. And I think that the reason why that myth is around is because they're comparing holistic healing, the journey to become a holistic healer, with the journey to becoming a medical doctor, which takes, at least 8 years, or more.
Right.
But that, that's a different thing. That medical doctors are not holistic healers; they're medical doctors.
Right.
And you can, like I said, my student, in 2 months she was able to do what medical doctors were not able to do for her husband in 20 years.
Wow.
So that just shows that it's not time. It's you just need to know the right information.
Right.
And Google is not going to be adequate. You can't just Google it.
Right. Exactly.
That's another. So you have to know the right resources, the right tools, and it doesn't take a lot of years. You have to know the right thing to study. And the third myth is that it's expensive. It's expensive to become a holistic healer, and again, that's because they are comparing it with the modern medical system, and they're thinking about medical doctors, but it wasn't modern medicine that helped me on my healing journey, and for my students as well. As I told you earlier, I have medical doctors, nurses, medical technicians that are studying with me. They already have licenses and degrees and whatnot, but they still don't know holistic health and healing. That's why they're studying at aruka.com.
Right.
So and so our program is very affordable. To study medicine, it's gonna, or any degree, it's gonna cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Sure.
To be a doctor, it's $150,000 to $400,000. But are you going to get the kind of education that you really need to bring holistic health and healing, to avoid cancer, to heal yourself of irritable bowel syndrome or colitis, or my personal story. The reason why I got into the field of holistic health and healing in the first place is because I had these terrible migraines. They were getting increasingly worse, and I had already had 2 babies. But my pain that I was feeling with my migraines were worse than childbirth. It was
wow.
Most terrible pain I had ever felt. And I went to the hospital, went to the emergency room because I thought I was going to die.
Right.
That's how bad.
Oh, wow.
And with all their expensive equipment and all the medical doctors with their expensive degrees and the nurses, and then I had to pay like $4,000 out of pocket, and that was that was about 16 years ago, or maybe less, around, 15, 16 years ago. So it would have been more than 4,000 today.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. But with all of their expensive gadgets and education and degrees and years of study, they ended up telling me that there's nothing wrong with me. They couldn't figure out what was causing my migraines, and they gave me some Valium, which is just
oh my goodness,
painkiller, but it's not going to heal me.
No,
you take that, and you're knocked out. You can't do anything for the rest of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Can't do a thing.
And the problem comes back the very next day.
Yeah, repeats it over.
Yeah, and that's when I was like, this is ridiculous. What? I just gave you $4,000, and you tell me there's nothing wrong with me? There's obviously something wrong with me if I'm in the emergency room.
Right.
And so that's what began my journey and why I became a holistic healer. And I was able to find out, what my body actually lacked and what I needed to do.
Oh, nice. And that's what holistic health is all about. Now, I wanted to ask you a question about the herbs. So, are you growing them yourself, or you? How are you obtaining them to create? For your students, like, so if I was a student of yours and I was saying, like, I had restless leg syndrome, I know you had to do your due diligence and kind of put things together and look at their bodies and things like that. Do you grow your herbs?
No.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not a grower. And actually, I don't I don't actually counsel with people in person or face to face unless they really are local.
Right. I got you. Yes.
because everything is educational.
Right.
Everything is actually done remotely,
Okay.
and I give the formulas.
Got you.
I don't sell or make the herbs.
I got you.
I do make herbs for myself and my family or my friends, but I don't sell them. I just
Okay.
more teach people how to make the formulas and what to do
Got
and
you.
where. Yeah.
Okay, got you. So it's not coming from a company or anything like that. It's just you're creating the formula and then they're going
Yeah,
to
oh yeah,
get.
I refer them to different herbal sources. Like
I got
I
you.
like getting herbs from my favorite source is pacificbotanicals.com.
Okay. And are they
Yeah.
natural or are they in the pill form? How do they come?
I always for vitamins, it's going to be in a pill form,
Right.
but
Okay.
for herbs,
Hmm.
I prefer getting them in bulk. The
Okay.
herb, either powdered or
Okay.
dried
Right.
roots
Right.
and flowers and bark or
Got you.
whatever part you need to use. And I think for most of my formulas,
Hmm.
I prefer taking it in herbal tea form. There's
Got you.
other ways to get tinctures. I've made tinctures
Right.
and pills. You can
Hmm.
make your own pills. My students will learn different ways to make herbs. But my favorite way to take herbs is by drinking it. You can get the most, and it's with tinctures you get that alcohol content, which you don't
Right.
necessarily need. So
Hmm.
I think it's best
Yeah.
for most purposes.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. Well, you're teaching me something, audience. We are being taught today. We are the students of this, holistic way to live. And I love how you talked about healing the gut. I do believe that gut healthy, using the bathroom, voiding, I like that idea. I
Every
didn't know
day,
about that
every day should be done every day.
every day and not just once. But yeah, I love that. I love that you talk about gut health because we forget about gut health a lot. And a lot of times it's when I know I was gluten intolerant, didn't know I was, and then I had a seizure, so it really I didn't know. I just didn't know, and it really once I got that under control and stopped eating a lot of things and getting my gut together, my life changed. I felt light. I felt light, and it's not hard. Like you said, it's not hard, but you have to. It's something that you, or now it's a lifestyle for me. And I think living holistically is a lifestyle.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that life coaching also is an important part of that that the field of holistic health and healing. How to
Right.
think properly.
Right.
How to get rid of your limiting beliefs.
Right.
It's that's absolutely applicable in the field of health and healing as
Right.
well.
That's
And
great.
also, life coaches, they coach people on relationships and on
Hmm.
attaining one's goals. That's an important part of holistic health and healing as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Often overlooked,
Yeah.
but that's also, yeah,
That's great.
relationships and mindset, and yeah,
It
it's all
all
part.
all works together. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. So, what advice would you give someone who was considering pursuing in the field that you're in? What would you give? What insight would you give them?
Well, to sign up at our school, for sure, yeah. And I guess something more generic, not as self-promoting. Let me think about that. Um, okay, one of the principles that our school is designed from. Okay, so personally, I studied at various different places. I studied
Okay.
herbalism and nutrition originally at the Global College of Natural Medicine. Then I went on to study at um, Dr. Christopher. He's not a medical doctor; he's a master herbalist. John R. Christopher's School of Natural Healing, and I
Uh-huh.
studied herbalism there, and then more herbalism there, and then I studied with Andrew Saul, orthomolecular nutrition.
Hmm.
Something about our school is that you'll see that you're going to learn different theories from top experts and holistic healers.
Right.
Some of them are doctors, some of them are naturopaths, some of them are herbalists,
Right.
whatever. And a lot of times they will disagree with each other. Like one may say you need to go vegan, and another will say no, you need to eat lots of meat. And I believe the truth is usually always somewhere in between.
In between, you're right. You're exactly right.
And I would say never be dogmatic about one thing that you
Yes.
learn. Always keep learning. Always keep your ears peeled.
Yeah.
That doesn't also that doesn't mean just listen to everyone. I mean, I am very particular about who I learn my information from.
Right.
It's only from sources that I trust.
Right.
And there's a network there that that I trust. But
yes.
Not to ever think that one way is what everyone needs to do. No,
right.
Not everyone needs to be vegan. No, not everyone needs to be a carnivore. Not everyone needs this and this and that. Health is personal. It has to be individual.
I found that out.
And as a healer, you also have to admit that you don't know all the answers.
Yes.
And that what will work for one person may not work for someone else.
Exactly.
Like, ultimately empower the person to to be their own healer.
Yeah, seek their own healing.
Unlock that inner healing potential.
That's right. So you guys, you heard it, audience. You've heard this from Mayim, and she's not self-promoting, but I think I'll just have to plug her. So go to Arukah, ARUKAH.com, the Holistic Life Academy. Now, this is the second half, and it's so great for our audience and I to get to know all about you, Mayim, and your business. Now, let's turn the tables and know about you personally. Let me see. What's the best compliment you ever received?
My mom is here. She just moved here from the Philippines. And I think coming from her mouth saying that she likes my children and their character, and she likes the way that I raised them, and I have 7 of them too, so we're a big family.
Right. Okay.
I think that's probably, it has nothing to do with holistic health.
That's okay. I asked you your favorite compliment. That's great.
I was like, wow, my mom thinks that I'm a good mom and that I raised my children well. To me, that's huge.
Yeah, that is huge. That's wonderful. Okay, so what would you pick for your last meal?
Oh. I don't think I'd pick anything heavy, even though I do like meat. I think I would just have some fresh fruit, like a bunch of fresh fruit, something light and natural taste of heaven,
Yeah. Okay. And would you have a drink with that or no?
Some herbal tea, white pomegranate.
I love that thought. I love that thought. Love it, love it, love it. Love it. That sounds so delicious right now. So, final thoughts. What's the best tip you can share with other women in business?
In business, okay, that's a good one. Yeah, I would say that to build the successful business of your dreams, it should come from, in my personal experience, I feel like it needs to come from a place of a lot of passion. Really determined, like, understand why you're doing this. Don't do this just because other people say it's good to do or whatever. Like, believe in what you're doing. If you don't believe in what you're doing, find what you can be passionate about and what you can believe in. Do something that you can do that people need, of course. It should be something useful.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But still something that you can really put your heart and soul into because you really care about it. And I think that is one of the keys to success, and why I've been able to successfully been able to work from home for
2 years.
Well, no, actually, even before that, I've worked from home. And had my own business. I actually have been doing that for 18 years.
Oh wow! Well, you were a lucky one.
Yeah, it's just the health coach certification program that is 2 years old. But I've been 2009 is when I started Arukah.
Okay.
And before that, I was into online entrepreneurship as well.
Okay. Well, audience, you've heard it from our guest, Mayim Vega. And I would just want to thank you for being here. This brings us to the end of the show. I want to thank you, audience, for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please donate. Please share it with others. Post about it and on social media and leave a rating or review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at EJW Coaching. Thanks again, audience, and I'll see you the next time. Remember to always draw abundance, have happiness, and a whole lot of fun. This is Edna White and my guest today, Mayim Vega, saying good night.
Night.